Welcome to today's episode of Staying in Tune with Giovanna Smith. This is part 2 of a three-way segment. If you haven't already seen a Staying in Tune episode by Astrid, I highly recommend it. The rest of this segment will make a lot more sense if you view her screencast first. Today's topic will be from the book Raising a Secure Child by Kent Hoffman, Glenn Cooper, and Bernd Powell. We will be learning about shark music. Now you may think, what on earth does shark music have to do with parenting? After all, this is a parenting clip. So today we're going to talk about what shark music is, or how it relates to our parenting sensitivities. What do you feel when you view this picture? I typically freak out when I see a picture of sharks or anything to do with sharks. It reminds me of fears that I have. Just like sharks can trigger fears in others, shark music means a parent's sensitivities or discomforts or struggles when it comes to parenting, or personal fears that they have that somehow affect or influence their child's attachment to them, or prohibits them from meeting their child's needs because they are afraid of the shark music or that specific sensitivity that is hard to overcome. Shark music or sensitivities can be found in every household and can even be passed down from generation to generation. And it's also important to take into consideration that when we refer to shark music, it doesn't necessarily mean something terrible or awful, and that it's okay to have shark music. It's just simply an alarm that goes off within ourselves, telling us that, hey, something can be dangerous or potentially harmful to us or to our family. But shark music can be found anywhere and within my own family. An example that I'll share is from my grandmother. My grandmother is from Mexico, and as a young mother, Mexico was not a very safe place for her 8 children. She had many things to take care of, and they had a small family farm. Well, when my mother was young, her and her siblings loved to explore the outdoors, and they loved to sneak off into the next village and sometimes even steal from, their neighbor's apple tree. Well, during that time, my grandmother feared strangers. Yes, she was afraid that strangers will come and kidnap her 8 children because they would go crazy and roam around everywhere. Well, she later told her children that they had to be very careful and basically stay indoors because strangers will come and get them and kidnap them. So, for the rest of the years that followed, my mother and her siblings were very cautious and aware of strangers, and when they walked the streets, they made sure to walk in groups. Well, because of that, when my mother became a new mother and I was around 5 years old, I loved to go outside and roam the streets and play with the neighbors. Um, However, I was always constantly watched, and I would say that's a good thing. But as I got a little older, my mother told me to beware of strangers and that they can come and kidnap me. So after that, I actually didn't go outside much to play, even though I really wanted to. I let my fear of being kidnapped really letting me explore the outdoors. And now, years later, now that I'm a new mother and I have my own children, I think about strangers often wanting to kidnap my children. And because of that, I can definitely see myself telling my own children to stay indoors because I don't want them to be kidnapped. Now that is shark music or sensitivity that was passed down in my family. And it's something that could potentially keep me from meeting my child's needs to explore the world around them. And that is what we are going to get into today. Now that you know what shark music is, we're going to discuss where you struggle within the circle of security and how you can overcome or lessen that shark music noise so that you can meet your own child's needs. We will take a self-evaluation of the bottom of the circle, meaning the emotional closeness, the top of the circle, meaning separation, or the hands of the circle, being in charge. The following is a self-evaluation of the bottom of the circle, meaning the emotional closeness or physical closeness that we feel with our child. First, do you worry that your child's sense of self-esteem is in need of continual, often moment-to-moment maintenance? Do I look for ways to keep my child focused on ever-increasing achievement, either physical or intellectual, in a way that limits closeness, such as cuddling, touch, or lap time? Am I happier when my child is out exploring the world and somewhat ill at ease when it's time to help make sense of emotions or offer comfort when he or she is upset? If you answered yes to any of these, there's no need to be alarmed, but it could be perhaps something that you're sensitive to or that you're struggling with as a parent in this portion of the security circle. Next, the top half struggles, the emotional or physical separation. 1. Do you worry that your child will quit being so available to you? Or do you look for ways to draw your child's focus back to your relationship? 3. Are you happier when your child is nearby and stays focused on your relationship? Lastly, the hand struggles, or being in charge. 1. Do I have the capacity to say no with firmness and kindness in a way that my child knows I'm in charge? Do I get angry in a way that causes my child to shrink back, always agree, or hide thoughts and feelings? Do I ask my child to be in charge by either taking care of me or focusing on my own needs and being over-compliant or running scared of my anger? Do I expect my child to deal with difficult circumstances and strong emotions without my support? Again, if you answered yes to any of the following evaluations, there's no need to worry. You just found a sensitivity that you have. Now that you have perhaps recognized a few of your own sensitivities or found your own shark music, it's time to get out of the water and into safety and onto the boat. Notice in the following picture how the sharks are still everywhere and they're still by the boat. When we say get onto the boat, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're completely free of shark music or that the sharks are no longer around you. The sharks may still be present. It goes the same for our sensitivities. As we seek to become better and seek to overcome our own sensitivities and meet our child's needs, they may still be there, and it'll take time to lessen that shark music or that fear or anxiety that we may have about certain subjects of parenting. The following is a list of how to lessen or lower the volume to our own shark music. First, it's important to make it verbal. When we say make it verbal, it literally means saying our own fears, feelings, actions, behaviors out loud. It decreases that effect or that fear that we have. For example, I have a fear that my children will be kidnapped when they go outside to play. And I feel scared, anxious, and nervous. That alone helps me recognize and validate my own feelings. Next is get some distance. When we say distance, it doesn't necessarily mean an out-of-body experience or staying away from yourself so you can see how you look like, even though the book does suggest to videotape yourself in your interactions with your children. However, sometimes we may not always have a camera or a video camera ready. So we can get some distance by reflecting on our own family members or in our own interactions with our children. We can think about perhaps certain habits that have been passed down from generation to generation, just like I've shown before. The example of me and my mom and my grandmother being afraid of our children being kidnapped. Last, it's important to remember that you're doing all of this out of love. It's difficult to recognize your own sensitivities or to want to pay attention to someone else before yourself. So just remember that the shark music may still be present, but as long as you try to meet your child's needs, that's all that matters. Seek first to meet your child's needs, or stay in tune with what they need, and the rest will follow. Remember to make it verbal, distance yourself, reflect, and remember that you're doing all of this out of love. Thanks for tuning into Staying in Tune. We hope to see you soon.